Corvette C8 prices dropped by approximately $20,000 since August 2021, but this trend came to an abrupt end. Prices stabilized in the last 3 months, and in some cases even increased. And this is a remarkable turn to say the least, and raises several questions. Is this the market bottom? Is it a good time to buy? And how does it compare to other cars? That and more we'll answer in today's video. Yet, we first need to get a good picture of today's market and the current price trends. So let's start by investigating today's prices. Over here we have the US market in the beginning of May. In total there are 2,059 cars listed for sale, and this is 18% less than 3 months ago. So supply decreased a lot, but this is in line with other markets. And this only applies to the Stingrays, just as the rest of the video. Now looking at the prices, we can see first of all that there are some new cars which are advertised at MSRP. But as we all know, it's not self-evident that you can actually get them for the advertised price. Luckily though, we can see that older, used cars are a bit more affordable than the latest ones. The difference between a 2020 and 2023 used car is approximately $13,000. Other than that, I don't think that this graph has many surprises for the C8 enthusiast. So let's have a look at the price trends and the bottoming that took place during the last 3 months. Over here you can see the price development for the coupes and the convertibles. And this shows that immediately after their introduction, prices were extortionate. They even increased a bit further, but end up topping in the summer of 2021. Since then, prices have been decreasing. Between August 2021 and February 2023, they dropped by 17%, and this equals $18,200 for the coupes and $21,000 for the convertibles. But look what happened during the past 3 months. The price trend stabilized. Prices for convertibles didn't change and coupes increased by 1%. This is a major development, and what makes this even more special is that it applies to all cars. Have a look at the following 2 graphs. In the first graph, the development is broken down by the model years. I know that there are many lines, but I would like to focus on the trends. We can see that prices dropped in an almost linear fashion during last year, but that this changed in the last 3 months. Cars from all model years bottomed. It applies to old and new cars. If we look at the second graph, we can see that it also applies to both high and low mileage cars. Over here we have the price development broken down by mileage. So this means that the grey line, for example, represents the prices for coupes between 48 and 70,000 miles. Now as you can see from the price trends, the stabilization applies to both high and low mileage cars. Again, this is a clear break from the previous pattern. So we established now that prices didn't change during the most recent period, and that this applies to all cars. Ultimately, these changes are the result of an increase in the scarcity level in the market, that is, the balance between supply and demand. Let's evaluate these a little bit closer and then discuss if we're looking at a real market bottom or a temporary effect. We start with the easy one, supply. Over here we can see the supply levels for the new, used and certified cars. These patterns are sending a strong message. Supply decreased drastically in the most recent period. There are currently 18% fewer cars listed for sale than 3 months ago. And this is mainly caused by the drops in the used and new cars. So this significant drop helps to explain the price increase. But that must also mean that demand is unchanged or perhaps even increased. After all, if you're a subscriber, you know that supply on a standalone basis is not a good predictor for prices. We have other metrics for that. Now looking at the C8 market, we can identify a few factors that could have pushed demand up, or at least prevented a decrease. First, we have the price increase for new cars. Chevrolet increased prices, and typically this means that used cars will also rise. It is a by now famous strategy used by many manufacturers to ensure strong residuals in the used market. After all, if the gap increases between a used and a new car, the used car becomes more attractive and hereby drives up demand. Second, the Z06 made its way to the market and price premiums are monstrous. Many people probably expected that Stingray prices would fall following the Z06 introduction, but I think that the opposite might be true. Have a look at the following plot. Over here we can see that most Z06 prices are extortionate. They stretch up to $250,000. I don't think that I need to explain that this is way over MSRP. MSRP starts at $106,000, and even if you take all the option boxes, you are nowhere near $250,000. There are indeed a few cars that are advertised at MSRP, but just as with the Stingray, I think it is unlikely that you will get the car for that price. Apparently there are some people who managed to get one at MSRP, but to my understanding, they placed their orders a long time ago. In any case, all of this means that the price difference between the Stingray and the Z06 becomes so large that the C8 becomes relatively attractive, hereby potentially driving demand up. But now then, I don't think that any of the reasons that we just discussed is the driving force behind the flat price development. Sure, they might have helped, but I don't think that the bottoming pattern is the result of a C8 specific price driver. The price pattern is namely visible in many other markets. Have a look at the following plot. Over here we have at the bottom the trend for the C8 Stingray, and above that the ones for the 991.1 and .2 GT3s and turbos. And what can we see? Exactly, bottoming price trends. All these price trends changed in the last 3 months. They pivoted from decreasing to flat. I already devoted a full video to these bottoming price trends and also recently uploaded a GT3 and turbo market update. I will put the links to those videos in the description, so check them out if you want to know more. Now all of this means that we can conclude that there is something which affects the prices across the board. Prices in numerous sports and supercar markets are bottoming. Therefore, as of now, I think it's feasible to conclude that we are looking at the seasonal spring effect that pushed up demand and stabilized the prices. Now the beautiful thing about the C8 market is that I have quite a lot of granular data on it, and that this data seems to support the conclusion. Let's have another look at the price trends. We can namely spot the seasonality. It is not the first time that prices flatlined. This also happened in 2021 between January and May, just as they did now between February and May. Two occurrences aren't convincing enough to trust my conclusion, but we can see this pattern also in other relevant data, such as the time that the cars are advertised for sale. And over here we can see exactly how long a C8 Stingray is advertised for sale. In the beginning of its lifetime, this was extremely short, as it belonged to the fastest selling cars in the US, but as supply grew, so did the advertised time. As we saw, this is also clearly reflected in the prices. Now what's remarkable about this graph is that the advertised times only decreased 3 times. In the most recent quarter, in Q2 of 2022 and in Q1 2021. And as you probably realize, the last two slowdowns line up perfectly with the flat price developments in the price graph. Data to calculate this trend is very kindly provided by Autotempest. Autotempest conveniently pulls listings from a bunch of different websites into one place, so that you can browse through all of them. Check out the links in the description to find the Corvettes for sale right now. And with that, it's time to wrap up and conclude. Corvette C8 prices bottomed for the first time ever, and that's a big deviation from the downward sloping price trend. However, it is not the only car market in which prices are bottoming. It happened in the Porsche 911 GT3, Turbo, and also for example in the Cayman market. In other words, it is quite likely that the main driver of the most recent development is not specific to the C8 market. Now after we concluded that, we had a look at some more data and discussed that we could be looking at a seasonal spring effect. Typically car prices increase during the spring. The Mannheim Used Vehicle Value Index illustrates this nicely, but it mainly contains normal used cars. Data in the Corvette C8 market is limited as the car is relatively new, but it does support the seasonality conclusion. We could really confirm it if we had more data on other markets, especially data that covers the period before the pandemic. Yet, it's a little bit strange that not all car markets experienced a flat price development. We saw, for example, that AMG GTs, McLarens and relatively new mid-engine Ferraris continue to drop. There appears to be some moderating factor or a different effect altogether. I'm planning to dive a little bit deeper into this in the next exotic car market update, so stay tuned for that. But now then, if we assume that this is indeed a seasonal effect, it also means that right now isn't the best moment to buy a Corvette C8. Naturally, the best moment was 3 months ago. Yes, thank you Captain Hindsight. Now if you want a C8 right now, you of course need to pay up. But if you have the possibility to wait because you, for example, plan to own the car for a long time, it might pay off to wait. Right now would be only a good moment to buy if this is indeed the market bottom. But I find it difficult to argue for this conclusion. The cars are young and mass-produced, the long-term price trend is still down, and credit is still tightening. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets, but would like to see an analysis for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you will find data-driven market updates for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car for which you would like to see an analysis by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.